Hey guys, Shanezel here with another tier list video for FF1 NES for casual play. Today I'm going to be going over what monsters are worth fighting and which ones are worth skipping for the most part. And I'll start off by individual areas of the game. So to start off with, we're going to start with the Temple of Fiends area and before. So everything before fighting the first boss, these will be your enemies. We'll start off with Imp. Imp is definitely the worst monster in the game. It's not worth fighting. Well, okay, that and Bone. These two are like the worst enemies. You should never be trying to fight them. Grimp here, Grimp is okay. Grimp is worth 3 imps of XP and gold. So if you find a group of like 3 of them, they're actually okay to fight. Mad Pony is a little better. They're a little sketchy if you get hit by one and you don't have any armor on, so like your mages get hit. If they're level 1, they can be one shot, but if you're level 2 plus, they're generally safe and they give 63 XP, which isn't bad, especially for the early game. The creep is also 63 XP, but is a little bit more difficult to beat, so I'll put them up there with Grimp. Then we've got Wolf. I think I'm going to put Wolf down here in D tier. They're also pretty bad. They're worth more XP than the Grimp. They are 4 imps worth of XP, which is kind of nice, but their gold is non-existent. They're only 1 imp of gold, so I'm going to put them there. I put Bones below imps just because Bones are worth even less XP and gold than imps somehow. Like, they're 3 gold. 3! I guess they're 9 XP, so it's technically more XP than an imp, but even less gold, they hit harder, like, they're not worth it. Speaking of not the best enemies, we've got Spider. Spider here is actually worth 30 XP and 8 gold, so it's worth more than the wolf, but they have a high ambush rate, which makes them a little bit worse. You can find all of these enemies outside of the Temple of Fiends. Now, once you go into the Temple of Fiends, you can start fighting the next group of enemies. Not werewolves, Gerwolves are a little bit more XP. They're harder to kill, but if you find them, which they're relatively rare to find in the Temple of Fiends, but you can find them. They appear in encounter number 7, which is the 3 and 64 encounter group. There's actually 3 of these that appear at the very beginning of the game, so it is likely you'll find them in the Temple of Fiends. So you could find a Gerwolf or 2 and be able to take it out and get acceptable experience from it. They're still not good and they're still not worth fighting. Everything that's C and below you really shouldn't be going out of your way for, but in the early game when you need something, your options are limited. Gerwolf, you're probably, or not Gerwolf, Werewolf, you're probably never going to see. They are only in encounter number 8, and that would mean you'd have to take 129 battles before going into the Temple of Fiends. Well, at least 128, I guess, because it appears on encounter number 129. So you're not going to see them. They are worth decent experience, more than anything else in this area, but they also poison you, which costs 75 gold to heal. They're a little annoying to fight, they kind of hurt. At this point in the game, you shouldn't be fighting them, and you shouldn't be taking nearly 130 encounters before fighting Garland anyways, so they're going there. Next up, we've got zombies. Honestly, zombies probably one of the better enemies to fight in the early game. They aren't worth a lot. 24 XP, 12 gold. So same XP as a wolf, double the gold. But the thing about zombies is they're susceptible to harm. So if you have a white mage, you can possibly take out 4 of them in one spell, and it's great XP and gold, and they also appear early in the encounter table, they're common. So they're actually a pretty decent enemy to fight. They also have no absorption, so even your melee characters can beat them down pretty easily, including the weak ones like thieves and black belts. The only acceptable enemy to fight, the only acceptable one early on, is the ghoul. They hit 3 times and have stun touch, but it's actually worth 50 gold and 93 XP, which is better than most things you're going to fight. It can go down to a single harm or a single fire spell, possibly 2 swings from a fighter. They're actually not bad. Even though you can't farm him, Garland is worth the most XP out of all the early game enemies. Garland is, of course, a one-time fight and is your boss, so he takes a little while to kill, but he at least is worth something. So that is all of the Temple of Fiend monsters. Alright, next up we're going to have Pre-Astos. So for here I'm going to lump together all of the enemies that you're likely to see after you've beaten Garland until you beat Astos. This is like the end of the early game. So here's where you'll be doing a lot of XPing to get new equipment for your characters and spells, since you actually have options, things that you are actually looking to go for. So the D tier, I'm going to throw all of the garbage that you really shouldn't fight at this point in the game. They're all just bad. C is going to be some of the enemies that were okay before, but for the most part you still don't want to fight. Werewolves you can actually take out, but I don't feel like they're really worth it. Ghouls you're only going to fight in very specific encounters that I'll talk about later, but I'll put them in C for now just because they're at the early game enemies. Werewolf and Asp, you don't really want to fight too much, and Arachnid. I'm going to put them all right here. They're all poisonous enemies that, under certain circumstances, can be worth fighting, but on average, on a typical casual playthrough, the poisoning is just annoying, and killing them doesn't even pay for the gold you have to spend on the Pure Potion. So for the most part, you generally want to stay away from them, unless you're doing specific niche challenge runs, like doing a solo thief or something, when you don't need the gold and you just need the easy XP because asps and arachnids don't deal a lot of damage, and you can just sit there being poisoned and slowly bop them 100 times until they die. But for the most part, you don't want to fight them. Ogres are like the best early game enemy to fight. They're 195 gold, 195 XP. You can find them near Provoca and near Elfland / Marsh Cave, so they're all over the place, and if you know where to look, you can find them nearly every battle. Groger is a slightly souped up version of the regular ogre, gives more XP gold, does a little bit more damage, takes a little bit less damage, has more hit points. He's not worth that much more for me to want to put him anywhere else, but when you do rarely find them, they are worth taking out. Iguana is like an ogre -1. It's about the same difficulty to beat one down, except they have a high critical hit rate, they give less XP and less gold. But they're still better than some of the other choices you have in this area. Pirates are a one-time battle, but they're 40 XP and gold apiece. It's not bad. You typically want to take out the pirates as soon as you possibly can. So that way you get access to the boat, and you can actually go to Elfland. So for aquatic enemies, Sahagins are the worst. 30 XP gold. Sorry, they're not the worst. They're the second worst. But you just don't want to fight them. They're not worth it. They are the most common enemy you'll see in the ocean, so that sucks. But they aren't worth fighting. The R Sahag is a little better. I'm going to put it up in the B. It's 105 gold, 105 XP. They're a little bit more difficult to hit with melee attacks, but 2 lightning spells, 2 lit 1 spells will take them out, or 1 lit 1 spell and a good hit from a fighter. Now, the enemy that everyone loves is not going into S tier. Kaizokus are going to go into A. I probably should put them in the B, but I know that if I don't at least put them in A, people will be upset. Kaizokus are 120 gold at 60 XP. The main thing that people love about Kaizogus is that they're super easy to find. If you save the game and then you hard power it and hop into the boat and walk around in the ocean for a few steps, you'll fight a group of 1 to 5 Kaizogus every time. If you save, then power, hop into the boat. Every time it'll be 5 Kaizogus. So at this early stages in the game, you're really looking to get money to update your gear and spells for your team. So beating up a bunch of Kaizogus, getting fast cash is generally a good way to go. So Kaizogus are great. Sharks I could put into A, but I'm going to put them into B just because they don't give a lot of gold. They aren't bad, like they're about the same as an ogre, except they give a little bit more XP and a lot less gold. So I'm going to put them in B just because at this stage in the game, you generally want to get as much gold as you possibly can to upgrade your casters to get tier 3 spells and your characters to get slightly better weapons and armor so that you can actually go and fight real enemies. So prioritizing gold is generally more important at this point in time. The last aquatic enemy is actually the worst. The Odd Eye. It's don't fight an Odd Eye. 42 XP, 10 gold. It's not worth it. And they also paralyze you. Like, no, gross. Geists, on the other hand, they're pretty good. If you have a white mage, the second encounter after power on, if you're in the marsh cave, outside of marsh cave zone, or if you're near Provoca, slightly south of it, you can fight these in the second encounter after battle or after power on, and you can fight 1 to 4 Geists. They're 117 XP and gold apiece. If you fight a group of 4 of them, that's amazing, and you can technically kill them with 1 harm spell. So that is awesome. Not quite S tier, but really good. All of the enemies here in the A tier give good money and are worth fighting. Now I'll go to the Marsh Cave encounters. Technically, this first one you can fight outside of Marsh Cave, but you don't want to fight scorpions. They do a lot of damage, they poison, they're not worth the effort, they ambush you a lot. Technically, outside of Marsh Cave, they're in the encounter group number 8, so they're super rare, but inside of Marsh Cave, they're more common, and you just don't want to fight them. They aren't worth it. Then we've got Shadows. Shadows I'll put into C. I should put them into D, but honestly, if you have a white mage spamming harm on them, they're not terrible, so you could fight them. Scum, going into D. They have max absorption. Your melee characters are going to deal 1 damage a swing. They poison you, they have a high ambush rate, and you're only taking them down with fire and ice. Don't fight them. Crawls, also in the Marsh Cave, they hit way too many times. They're always going to paralyze whoever they hit. They deal 1 damage a swing, but they are just really annoying. You don't want to fight them. Mucks, on the other hand, are actually pretty good. They're more XP than an ogre, but not quite as much gold. They're better than a shark, though. They will hit you harder. They can deal upwards of 60 points of damage. So be careful with your squishy characters around them, but you're probably not going to be in Marsh Cave trying to fight mucks anyways. They are weak to lightning, in case you're curious. Lightning 1 does deal decent damage to them, but not really that worthwhile. Gargoyles, they swing a lot, deal good damage to your casters, and aren't really worth it. Arbones, also, their XP is okay, but they hit really hard and they take forever to kill, and they come paired with crawls, which makes them worse to fight. So that's all the Marsh Cave encounters and pre-Marsh Cave encounters. Now's the fun stuff. the enemies that you shouldn't have access to, but you do have access to before finishing the Marsh Cave and beating Astos. So there is one tile near the Northwest Castle where you can fight the Melmond encounter zone. So there you can fight Ogre Grogers, you can fight groups of up to 7 shadows, you can fight the ghouls with the Geists in large packs up to 9, which is why I even have the ghoul here. I mean, technically you can fight them in Marsh Cave, and I guess I should have pulled out the zombie also for Marsh Cave. But zombie was also in the first one, so you get the idea with the zombies. But anyways, back to the Melmond zone. There's one tile you can access near Northwest Castle, and if you take a step off of that tile, you can fight the encounters around Melmond. In most situations, you don't want to do this, but depending on your team comp, maybe it's very melee heavy, and you don't have like a lot of casters, so you want to fight a lot of ogres, grogers, hyenas, tigers, you can do that. So in that encounter area, you can also fight hyenas, which are easier to kill than grogers, worth the same XP, less gold. Like, they're great. Hyenas are really good. They're about as difficult as an ogre, but worth the XP of a groger, so they're good to fight. Tigers, I'm gonna put in B. They're worth even more XP, but if you're in a team comp that's kind of struggling and you can't go to the Peninsula of Power yet, you're probably going to struggle with tigers. But if you can beat down tigers, they're the best XP we've talked about out of all these monsters so far, and they're relatively squishy. But they're also scary, they have a high ambush rate and a high critical hit rate, so watch out for tigers. Now is probably some of the enemies that most people care about, and it's the Peninsula of Power enemies. I'll start off with the Giant. Giant, it's worth good XP and gold. If you don't know what the Peninsula of Power is, I should go over that first. So the Peninsula of Power is 4 tiles on this little peninsula to the northwest of Provoca. If you walk to the west, or sorry, to the east and north of Provoca, all the way up there at the top, you'll find yourself at this little peninsula. You'll just run up there. It looks like there's nothing there, and if you go up to the tippy top, you can fight enemies from the Lufania zone, which you're not supposed to fight until way later in the game, but you can fight them early. And the giants, honestly, I'm gonna put into B. Just going for Peninsula of Power enemies, they're probably one of the worst. Their XP and gold is good, but they're difficult to kill. You're only really beating down giants if you have black/red mages with lots of ice 2s and or fighters that can deal some decent damage to them and not die. They generally aren't worth the risk. Next up, I'll put the frost wolves up here. I'll put them in A. They're pretty easy to kill if you have a black mage. You can just use a fire 2 and take most of them out. You have to beware though, 25% of the time they will use a skill called Frost and it will hurt. It can deal upwards of 96 damage to you. So you're going to want to save a lot at the Peninsula of Power. And if you can land a good fire 2 before they go, not bad. Also, if you have a white mage, you can cast Mute to mute them, or a Ice, which is level 4 spell, so you're probably not going to cast that, but Mute is level 2, and Mute can stop them from using Frost. But a black mage or red mage using Fire 2 is definitely better. Trolls, I'm going to put them in B. They hit really hard, they're worth less than the giants, and they're grouped up with an enemy that you'd rather fight, which is the Zomble. Zomble is S tier. Zomble is what the Peninsula of Power is known for. So if you save the game at the Peninsula of Power, you hard power, turn it back on, the first group of enemies you see will be an unrunnable encounter with 1 to 4 zombies, 0 to 2 trolls. So if you have 4 zombies there, and you have like a white mage and a black mage, you can spam harm 2 or harm 1 if you run out of harm 2s, and fire 2s that take out the zombies and get 4,000 XP and gold a fight if you're fighting 4 of them. It's by far the best XP and gold you can get in the early game, but it does take you a little while to be prepared for those fights. Like, you'll need your white and black mages at minimum to be level 5, if not 6, and a red mage will also need to be 6, if not 7, to be able to actually do anything to them. Your melee characters are mostly just going to be meat shields in the front row, just taking hits so that the casters can get their spells off. Next enemy will be the Tyro. I'm going to put him in A just because at this point in the game, Tyro is really difficult to beat up. He has a lot of magic defense. He's worth the most XP you can get right now, but you're not going to beat him down very well, and he hits like a truck. So if for some reason you're super melee heavy and really high level, you could probably take him out, but otherwise you're probably not going to fight him. Wyvern, you're not going to be fighting a Wyvern. Honestly, I could even move it down to C. Like, Wyvern is the rarest enemy, encounter number 8. They poison you, and they're not worth quite as much as a lot of the other enemies in the area. But you're not going to be fighting them anyways, so it doesn't matter. They poison you too. Then the wizards. Wizards you also don't want to fight. They are on a trap tile. They hit hard. They resist fire and ice. They don't resist lightning, so if you have lit 2 you can take them out, but you don't want to farm wizards. They aren't worth the trouble for how much they murder your characters. Then we have Astos. Astos is worth insane XP for the early game, but he can be challenging depending on your team comp. Usually if you have a couple fighters and a couple casters of black magic, you can take him out pretty easily. A few spells can take him out. He is susceptible to mute, but that's generally, you want to take him out with damage. So that's all of the enemies for the early game. Alright, and next up we've got enemies after you've beaten Astos and before you're fighting Lich. So I'm just calling this the pre-Lich phase. This is like the entrance to the mid-game. And a lot of these, you can fight all the enemies that you were able to fight earlier on, obviously. But I'm only having listed the ones that you're likely to be seeing after you've beaten Astos and you're getting ready for Lich. So at this point in the game, werewolves and gerwolves, not really worth fighting. Ghouls, not worth fighting. Asp, not worth fighting. Ogres are like C, Grogers are B. Depending on how much XP you farmed up at the Peninsula of Power, none of these enemies at this point are probably even worth fighting. But I'm going to put some of these without even explaining a lot of the ones that we already saw earlier. Arsag can go there, sure. Kaizoku at this point is also going into C. Shark. All these enemies we saw earlier, most of them are still junk. Yeah. Geists have fallen off a little bit. I'll put them at C. Scorpions still. Shadows aren't worth it at this point. Gargoyles aren't worth it. Wizards aren't worth it. Yep, I'm putting them in D now. You don't want to fight them. They are unrunnable, so if you see them, you have to take them out. But for all the enemies you're seeing at this point, like, they're worth nothing. They're too much effort for what they are. Hyenas are still okay. Tigers are okay at this point. Not amazing, but they're okay. As weird as this seems, I'm putting giants up to A for this stage of the game because you have access to better spells than you did before. So now you have access to Fire 3 and Lit 3 depending on how high level you get. And you have access to those spells, you can actually handle giants a lot easier, and your melee characters have access to better weapons now and can also help take them out much quicker. So giants actually become better to fight now than they were before. And I'm going to put trolls up there with giants. They're worth less XP and gold, but they're also less threatening now that your characters have more absorption. But still, Peninsula of Power grind is still typically better than fighting them. But at least you guys have a bit of an idea for the enemies you're seeing in this area of the game for what they should be worth. Spectres, they're not the greatest, but they're an enemy. Here's one you really don't want to see. Jerkbirds. Cockatrice are worth, in large groups, they're worth okay XP, but they petrify you. You get petrified once, that's 800 gold, and you miss out on the XP of the fight. You can't heal the status effect in battle, and I know lots of people love to have their teams have even XP, so Jerkbirds are like a worst enemy. Vampire is an enemy that is actually worth a lot, and you could farm vampires in large groups. But sadly, the vampire you see is just a mid-boss, and you just fight him a single time. So I'm going to put him in S, though. Just because, spoiler to later, vampires are actually pretty good to fight. Wiz Ogre, I'm going to put in B. They're not worth that much, and they're kind of annoying. They cast lots of support magic, I guess. They use ruse to make themselves hard to hit melee. They blind you, which makes them harder to be hit by melee. Again, they make your characters less accurate as well. They generally aren't worth fighting, though. Somebody else, and they're pretty deep into the Earth Cave. So you probably don't really want to fight these two enemies, the Wiz Ogres and the Sphinx. They're not the best to fight. They're kind of difficult. They're going to eat a lot of your spells. The Sphinx in particular is very evasive naturally. So your melee characters can struggle to hit it. Then you'll be forced to just spam out a lot of your best spells to take them out. Their XP in gold isn't bad, but they're typically not worth the trouble. Bulls I'm also going to put in the B tier. They're actually really easy to kill. Compared to a lot of the other enemies that, like we were just talking about, bulls are easy to kill, and they should have been hot, like they should have talked about them sooner, but it's fine because you can see them on like the first floor of the Earth Cave. But this is just how the enemies were positioned, so that it's just how they're going onto the list. Peds are around Crescent Lake area with the other enemies over here, and I would put Peds into S if they weren't scaredy cats and if they didn't poison you. Peds have a lot of absorption, so they're hard to kill. They're actually worth more XP than Zombles are, but considerably less gold, and they poison you. And they're cowards, so they start to run away from you at an early level, which is annoying. But they are really good and worth fighting if you can take them out with the spells and your strong melee characters. Earth Elementals aren't bad. They're also going into A. They are unrunnable, and you can find them on trap tiles, and you can actually fight Earth Elemental after Earth Elemental very easily. Speaking of trap tiles that you can fight over and over again, there is the Giants Tunnel, where you can fight nothing but giants and iguanas, which is why the iguana's on this list. They are paired together there. I don't think it's the best grind spot in the world, but some people love it. I have an issue with it because you're inside of the Earth Cave and it's difficult to come around consumables. So you're going to burn through all of your consumables really quickly and have to spend a lot of time and money rebuying them all. When you could just go to Crescent Lake, buy your gear upgrades while you're there, you have an inn right there, and still giants, trolls, peds, just a few steps from the inn. So you can use infinite spells. I prefer Crescent Lake over farming XP in the Earth Cave, but that's just my preference. Mummies. I want to put Mummy into B, but I'm going to put Mummy into A just just because they're easy to farm in Northwest Castle. After you've beaten Astos and you have the key, you can run there and you can fight 2 to 5 mummies every battle. and just use your harm 2s and fire 2s to take them out for acceptable gold in a decent amount of time. So I'll put them in A, even though I probably should put them down into B, just because it is a good grind spot that some people will enjoy. Images aren't really worth fighting. Let's put you last. Oozes, you probably aren't going to see a whole lot of oozes. Their XP and stuff is fine, but they come partnered with a bunch of arachnids. You're getting poisoned. It's a rare encounter. You're probably not going to want to be wasting your Fire 2 spells to take them out. You could use Ice 2s, but you probably want to save your Fire 2s for Lich. So I'm just putting them lower on the list just because, like, you're probably not going to want to be fighting them. And they're a rare encounter anyways. Then there's Cobras, also not really worth it. Now, with the Cobra Scorpions, there are groups of Cobras and Scorpions around Crescent Lake that come in large packs up to 9. If you have a caster heavy team, you can spam your highest level spells on large groups of Cobras and Scorpions, and it's actually pretty good XP. So even though I have them low ranked on here, just note that you can fight them if you don't mind the poisons from the Scorpions occasionally. And you can actually get pretty decent XP off of them when you're running around Crescent Lake. Then lastly, there's Lich. He's in a standard party. If you're actually leveling up decently and you have magic of some sort, you can beat him down with Harm 2/Harm 3, Fire 2/Fire 3. Your melee characters should have silver swords. By melee characters, I mean your fighters. Or silver axes, depending on what level you are. Silver axe can be better. And Lich shouldn't be too difficult, and he's worth good XP gold for, his difficulty, I guess. But that's all the enemies for before you have the canoe. Alright, the next part of the game is gonna be a lot. So after you beat Lich and you get the canoe, the game opens up and starts being more open world-ish. So once you've got the canoe, you have a choice of 3 different places, 3 different dungeons you can go. So there's a lot of enemies for me to cover here. And I'll try to cover all of them, starting off with all of the repeats from the ocean. You're going to see these guys a lot. None of them are worth fighting at this point in the game. You should probably just run from all of the ocean encounters. Like, they just aren't worth your time and effort. So, the 3 places you can go to after you get the canoe are the volcano, the ice cave, and ordeals. In my opinion, the best 2 places to go to are ice cave and ordeals. Ordeals can be scary, can be very scary, but the dungeon's short, especially if you know how to walk through the teleporters, and you can get really good equipment in ordeals. So I'll try to go over the ordeals enemies first, I guess. Okay, let's see. Who do we see in ordeals? Oh, I guess I could go over the enemies you actually fight in the river. Karabi, these guys, pretty worthless. They're worth no gold and a little bit of XP. You typically don't want to fight them though. Then you've got gators. They're also not really worth fighting, honestly. I don't think any of these enemies are really worth fighting. Ocho, Hydra. The Ocho poisons you. Hydra hits really hard. Hydra, Ocho both have high ambush rates. Gators hit hard as well. And they aren't really worth the trouble. Sure, you can take out large packs of them with like Lit 3, but they're really not worth fighting. The other enemies that you see in the river, the Frost Gator, Red Caribou, and Nacho, they are actually only in the north part of the world. But you can technically go there in the Ordeals area. You can hop in a river and technically find them there. It's a really tiny little area. The Frost Gator, Red Caribou, the Frost Gator in particular is really deadly. But if you do kill them, their XP and gold isn't too bad. Like, they're actually worth decent XP and gold. Well, okay, the gold's not amazing, but their XP is okay. And Nacho is amazing XP if you can handle the poison and them hitting you kind of hard. And if you can actually deal decent damage to them with like a strong fighter, they can be worthwhile. You know, I don't think I want to put them in A. I think I'm going to move them down just because they can be difficult to fight. They are good XP though, but at this point in the game, you're probably not prepared to really be fighting Nachos. They're too poisonous. Anyways, back to the enemies you'll see in Ordeals. First up, we've got everyone's favorite enemy, the Sorcerer. Yeah, don't fight these guys. Sorcerer is very scary in Ordeals. They instantly kill your team with their melee attacks. It is unresistible. And they also have a party AoE non-elemental paralysis attack. They're just jerks. Don't fight sorcerers. Don't do it. Just run and hope they don't kill you before you get away. Whiz mummies are okay. They come partnered with regular mummies, which aren't as good, but you can take them out with some harm spells, fire 2s, and some melee attacks onto the whiz mummies. And they're okay. They can sleep lock you, which can be a little sketchy. And yes, sleep lock is a thing. You don't hear about it as much as stun lock, but if they ambush you, you can just sit there asleep like the whole fight. Nightmares, I'm going to put in the B. I don't feel like they're worth fighting, honestly. Their XP's okay, but they're hard to hit with melee, and it can take usually 2 Ice 2s to take them out. So I don't think that they're really worth it. But they are a trap tile in Ordeals. If for some reason you really wanted to burn off all your Ice 2s on them. You've got Mancats. Not quite as deadly as the Sorcerer, but equally you don't want to fight them. They open with Fire 2, and they can just spam that and kill your mages in 1 to 2 Fire 2s, and your melees in 3 to 4, depending on if you've been to Ice Cave first and you have Ice Armor and Ice Shield for your fighter, then your fighter can survive, but the rest of your party is just going to die. You don't want to fight them. And they're not really worth good XP and gold either. Medusas, I'm going to put into C. You really don't want to fight them. They can petrify your team. They have a high ambush rate. But you can take them out with like Fire 2, Fire 3 relatively easily. That's the only reason why I'm putting them in C, is because you can actually one-shot them. So that they aren't the worst, even though they can petrify you. But if you want to say they should be in D, so you don't get petrified, I totally get that. But I think their XP and gold for their trouble, or for like, taking them out in one spell, it's understandable that they can be okay. We've got Mud Golems. Mud Golems I'll put into B. They're on a trap tile in Ordeals. They are actually pretty susceptible to melee attacks. They have low absorption. So if you have a heavy melee team, you can take them out decently well, but they do poison and hit kind of hard, and their XP is not amazing for their trouble, which, is looking like a theme here, that none of these enemies are worth a whole lot. Zombles, I guess I'll put them into A. They're the best enemy you want to see in Ordeals, and their XP and gold is still good. It's not as amazing as it was earlier in the game, but it's still good. Then I think the last one is just the zombie dragon. Zombie dragon, you could put up the S if you wanted to. They're unrunnable, so you can't be ambushed, just like the Zomble. And it's a trap tile that you can easily farm. You know what? I will put it into S, just because as you're about ready to leave Ordeals, you can use up all of your last remaining Fire 2s, Fire 3s, harm spells, and take out the zombie dragons, and they're actually worth good XP, especially if you get lucky and you fight groups of 2 of them repeatedly. Now, they do have stun touch, so you know what? Just because of the stun touch, I'll put them back into A. A is still good, but the stun touch can be sketchy. If your casters get hit with a melee attack and they're paralyzed, the fights can go south pretty quickly, but they are good XP. Now, Ordeals is definitely the better dungeon because of Zeus Gauntlet, Ice Sword, and the gold bracelet. So going there first is generally what I like to do, but if you want to wait until you've done some other things first, I get that. But since we were talking about Ordeals, I'm going to go over the enemies that are also near Ordeals. So there's Catman. These guys poison. They have a high ambush rate. You probably don't want to fight them. They come partnered with saber-toothed tigers, which don't poison, but they have a high crit rate. And, okay, a very high crit rate. Swing multiple times as well. And they just kind of hurt. Not really worth a whole lot. Manticores, you can fight over here as well. So when you've gone over to the Ordeals area, you technically can go as far as you want to the east, and you can fight lots of different enemies. You can fight Manticores, which, honestly, maybe I'll put Manticore up to A. They're not worth as much as, zombie dragons, but they're kind of passive. They'll poison your team, but they won't really do much else to you. So they're kind of easy to kill. Spam out some lightning spells or something and to take them out. They're not bad. Saria, they can also petrify your team. So we could put them down into C just because of that. But yeah, let's put them into C. They're kind of rare. Not super rare. They're just kind of rare. Gurpids, you can fight there. Sandworms, there we go. Sandworms you probably shouldn't fight, but you can technically see them here. They can use Crack, which can just instantly kill your entire team. You know what? At this stage of the game, I should put them in D. It's a little too sketchy. You know what? I'm going to put all of those guys down into D now. I've thought about it. Let's not deal with petrification. They can all stay in D tier. Since you can technically find them also, let's put Rankolo and Ankolo into D tier. They hit incredibly hard, especially Rankolo on your casters. Can one-shot your casters, you can get ambushed. You shouldn't be seeing them, but technically, if you walk really far away from Ordeals, and you go as far east as you can on land, you can fight these enemies, and they are jerks. And I'll put these guys over here too. They're not bad. You know what? They can go up here. They can go into B. They're not super threatening, but they do poison you. Their XP is okay. At this point in the game, I'm going to put Tyro up to S. You can fight Tyros around here. Your melee characters, after getting an ice sword, you should be able to deal pretty good damage to Tyros and take them out. And their XP is good when you can actually take them out in 1 or 2 rounds. They're great. Now, the Tyros do come partnered with the Wyverns at times, 50% of the time, but it's not too bad. I think that's everything on the outside. Oh, you can also fight these guys outside. At this point in the game, I think they're probably at B. You'll have decent spells. You can use them on them. You can nuke outside before you go into dungeons. You can use houses to heal up before you go into the dungeon. So they're acceptable, I guess, at this point in the game. I believe that's all of the enemies on the outside of Ordeals. So next, I'll go over Ice Cave. Ice Cave is a lot of enemies. A lot of them are garbage. Grabby hands. Geists, not worth the XP or the time at this point in the game. They stun lock your team. Same thing with Spectres. Images aren't much better. Wraiths, I'll put them in the C just because it. No, yeah, they're worth more XP, but like, again, you're just fighting all of these undead in the ice cave and you're getting stun locked a lot. You'll probably want to run away from most fights. Some people don't like to run, and you just murder everything with Harm 2, Fire 2, Fire 3. That's fine. I'll put Wraith in C just because their XP isn't terrible. And they only have one swing, even though they hit kind of hard. So they are better than the other undead, at least. There's that. Wizards, not worth the effort. They are an ice cave. They come in large packs up to 7, but they are unrunnable, so you have to kill them. Jerkbirds are also in the ice cave, and they come in large packs with mummies. So if you don't get petrified immediately, the mummies can just put you to sleep and then petrify you the next round. They're annoying. Mages. They have an incredibly high ambush rate. They're at the bottom of Ice Cave. And they start off with their first spell is Rub, which is just going to instantly kill whoever it targets. Then after that, if you survive, the first round of them, and you try to run, then they can just nuke you down with Lit 3. They aren't friendly. Gurpeed, I'm going to put in the C. They're kind of tanky for this point in the game, and they're not really worth the trouble. But they are one of the best enemies to see in the ice cave. Arbones, I'm actually putting here at C as well. They aren't really worth a whole lot, but you want to see them in the ice cave. They're not threatening, and you can kill them if you really want to. Furwolves, I'm putting down into C at this point in the game. They're not the greatest. They come by themselves or partnered with Frost Giants. Frost Giants hit hard, and the Fur Wolves, they're squishy, but they're going to spam Frost, and they're unrunnable when the Frost Wolf is partnered with the Giants. The Giants themselves are what's unrunnable. So if you see them, you just gotta fight them. Frost Dragon, you probably don't want to fight. If you get a preemptive strike on the Frost Dragon, they can be worth taking out. They're not too difficult to kill. They're a little evasive, but they're weak to fire and lightning. And they're kind of squishy, so if you get a jump on them, you can take them out. But if you don't, they are very scary. Their blizzard hits hard. Then we've got the Eye. The Eye is amazing to farm. Here's the thing. If you know what you're doing, the Eye grind can be one of the best grinds in the game. With that said, if you don't know what they're doing, the Eye is kind of scary. The Eye has lots of ways to instantly kill your party members. So when you first go through Ice Cave, you're probably not prepared to actually do like an Eye grind. But they are great once you're geared for it. If your melee characters have 301 or higher HP, they are immune to the first spell that the Eye casts. So they can tank XXXX for days. So if you can kill the eye quickly, you could take a few battles while you're there. But be wary, he could also just use skills, glance your team, petrify them. His second spell is Brack, which is also petrification. So it can be scary at this point in the game, but if you are killing him, the XP is worth it, for sure. And that's all the enemies in the Ice Cave. Now we've got the dungeon that I prefer to do last out of the three, and that's the volcano. The volcano has a wide array of useless monsters in it. Scorpions can appear here, they're not worth fighting. Bulls can appear here, they're really not worth it. I'm putting them in C just because you're probably going to one-shot them. So if you just see a bull, I mean, you could just punch it, but for the most part, you're going to want to run. You can see mucks here, they're not worthwhile. You can see paralisks here. They can instantly kill your team. Whiz ogres aren't great. Hyenas at this point, not great. Peds, they're okay, but they're probably going to run from you. We're running out of room here, but we've got the Argoyle. They're just like the Mancats, and except they come in larger groups. And they start off with fire too, which is very scary for your team. Fire elementals I'll put up in the B. They are acceptable. Yeah, they're not really great to farm, but you're going to fight a lot of them while looting items in the volcano. They are unrunnable. Fire, the Arhydra, they're okay. They're kind of easy, but their cremate can hurt. You know what? Because they're cremate, let's put them in a C. Yeah, if you came here later and you have resistance, they wouldn't be bad. But without the resistance, they kind of suck. So the Chimeras, not Chimera, the Cerberus, on the other hand, they have a skill, but their skill Scorch is so weak that even though it's AoE, I'll put them into A, honestly. They're pretty easy. Their XP isn't bad for the amount of effort you put into killing these guys, and Scorch does like no damage. So if you see them, they're probably going to be unrunnable. Just so you're aware, they're probably going to be unrunnable, so you need to take them out. They're partnered with Whiz Ogres often. And you should kill the Whiz Ogres first, as they're going to buff their team. And if they get to their Ice 2, that's going to do more damage than Scorch does. And they can make it so that your melees can't really deal damage to them. We've got the Grey Worm. I don't think Grey Worm is really worth fighting. He's not terrible. He's not terrible. I'll put him in B. You don't really want to fight Grey Worms. They don't hit too hard, but they take a little while to kill for most people. So I'll put them in B. They're okay. Agamas, I'll put into A. I know some people would want Agama. You know what? I will put Agama in S. Just because I know people love their Agama grind. I personally don't like the Agama grind. But the best part of the Agama grind is there is 2 tiles side by side that you can just walk into all day long and never get a random encounter. If you went to Ordeals first and got the heal staff, you can also make your character that doesn't deal much damage, like a white mage, spam the heal staff every round, and you can just sit there being full HP, just fighting them over and over, getting tons of XP and a little bit of gold. It's only 1,200 gold, so it's not worth much compared to the Eye's 3,400, but it's at least a really easy grind, so I'll put it into S. Red Giants, I'm going to put into C. Their XP is okay, but they hit really hard, so you don't want to fight them. Same with the Red D. Red D has Blaze, just like the Frost D. And if he uses Blaze on you, it's going to hurt it's going to kill casters. But if you get a jump on him, I mean, he's worth 5k gold. Like, take him out. He's definitely worth killing. But, or sorry, 4k gold, not 5k. I don't know what I was thinking. But his XP is also good. It's like the same as an Agama. But Blaze is scary. Now, Carrie, I know I put a lot of the other bosses earlier up here, but Carrie, by the time you get to her, she's not really worth much XP. She's worth like the same as the Agama, but she hits way harder. She has spells that do more damage. If you sit in the fight too long, she can cast hold on your characters and stun them. She's not really worth fighting, you just kind of have to at some point. So, I know that was a longer section, but those are all of the different enemies you can fight after getting the canoe. Okay, this next section also has a lot. This is going to be post-airship. Once you've gotten your airship, these are a lot of the enemies that you'll be able to fight throughout the different dungeons. So you can go to a lot of these dungeons in whatever order you'd like. I'll go over them in the order that I typically go to them, which will be starting off with the waterfall. Your options are waterfall and sky or sunken shrine. Those are technically your two options right now. You don't have to finish sunken shrine now. You can do half of it, then go to sky castle / mirage tower. But we're going to go over waterfall first. So enemies in the waterfall that have been repeats. We've got Wiz Mummy. Wiz Mummy's pretty good if you fight them in large packs. Jerk birds appear in there, they're trash. The other jerk birds, they're not as bad because at this point in the game you now have access to pro rings. If your characters have pro rings, they can't be hit by their squint, and they're kind of pathetic at that point. So they're actually okay to fight. Nightmares they're okay. I'll put them at B. Again, if you have spare ice 2s when you're walking through waterfall, you can just spam some ice 2s on them. Take them out. It's probably not really worth it, but you know, you can. Mud golems, same thing. You can punch them down just like before. There's really not a whole lot of enemies in the dungeon. Oh, I forgot the regular mummies. Regular mummies would be here at C as well. I could add them to the list, but honestly, it doesn't matter. And the trash you'll see in the, at this point you can actually fight nachos. I'll put them at A. All of the aquatic enemies when you're in the canoe. Just like before, they've been shifted around a little bit. Nachos are actually pretty good now that you have some melee weapons and you can actually take them out quickly. Nachos are actually good XP for their trouble at this point in the game. Then there's enemies that are on the world map. Ankylos you don't want to fight. They're not worth the trouble. Rankylos you don't want to fight. Not worth the trouble. Manticores are pretty good. I'll put Manticores at A just because they're so pathetic. They're not worth as much XP as like the nachos, but you can take them out so easily. Put a lot of these guys down here. I don't think they're that good. Like, yeah, their XP is okay, but I don't feel like fighting the worm. There, I'll put the worms right there. We'll do that. Tyro, not Tyro. Well, yeah, Tyro. He's back into S. Running around the world map, you can find him. He's pretty good. I'll put his buddy T-Rex up here too. T-Rex is encounter number 8. A 1 in 64 encounter. The first time you can see him is 129 encounters after you start up the game. So you're probably not going to see him, but if you do, he is worth XP. You're just not farming him, but he is worth XP. Some of the other enemies on the world map. Sandworm, I'll move him up to C. Yes, crack can kill your party at this point, but you're now starting to get access to ribbons. and it's pretty squishy, and your characters also no life, so they're not as threatening as before, but you still probably don't want to farm them. Man-cats, or catmen, sorry, not man-cats. What other enemies are outside? I think that's all of them that I have here. Yep. So that's it. There's a trap tile in the waterfall, which lots of people love to farm. It can have up to 5 whiz mummies on it. It's actually really good XP. If you go in there and if you have the warp spell or exit, you can go in there and burn off all your fire 2s and harm 2s and Zeus gauntlets and just farm that trap tile for pretty good XP and gold. That's actually a good trap tile to farm. Now I'll go over the Sea Shrine. The Sea Shrine enemies, we've got Wiz-Sahag is... I didn't grab the R-Sahag. Oh well. There's an R-Sahag. R-Sahag goes down here. There's an unrunnable encounter that is 8 it's 1 to 2 Wiz-Sahags, then 8 R-Sahags. The R-Sahags sit here in D. They're terrible. Don't fight them. Wiz-Sahags are okay. They either come with the R-Sahags, which are unrunnable, or they come with the Gersharks. Gersharks are pretty good. They are fairly squishy. They don't deal too much damage. They're actually nice to kill. When you're going through Sea Shrine, if you just melee them out, use the Zeus Gauntlet and Heal Staff, you'll keep up on your healing while easily taking them out and leveling up your team. Big Eyes are great. When you do occasionally see the Big Eye, murder it. They're easy, worth good XP. They come partnered with the Gershark. Definitely worth killing. Ghosts, I should put them into D tier. I will put them in the D tier just because I hate them. Their XPs actually should be up here in C. But they are unrunnable, they hit like trucks, and they paralyze you. If you run into a group of ghosts and you're unprepared, they can just wipe your party, especially if you're caster heavy. And if there's 5 of them, they can be real scary. But XP wise, they're like right here. Like they aren't the worst to kill, and they are weak to fire, and you can use harm on them. Lightning does okay, but they can wreck your team. So they're kind of sketchy. Speaking of unrunnable enemies, water elementals. I want to put, they're between A and B to me. I want to say B because they are unrunnable, and if you don't have ice spells ready, they can probably just take you out. But their XP is really good, so I'm going to put them in A, just because if you're going to the Sea Shrine and you're at least decently prepared and you have ice spells hanging out, just for the water elementals. Everything else you want to use lightning anyways, so you can use all of your ice spells to take out the water elementals, because yes, water is weak to ice. It's fine. That's how it is. The scorpions, sorry, not sea scorpions in this version, lobsters. They're not great. They poison you, they hit multiple times, they hit hard. I could put them in D, but I'll put them in C just because their XP actually isn't bad. When they're grouped together with these sea trolls and the sea snakes, they're actually really good XP in large groups. Sea snakes in particular are worth the most out of the 3, and they are not threatening at all. Large groups of sea snakes is definitely worth killing. If it's just the sea trolls, like sea trolls aren't really worth much XP. They also aren't threatening, but they're not worth the XP. They're worth the least out of the 3. But the sea snakes, they're worth the most. They're good to kill large groups of them. Water Naga, I want to put her in A, because she's easy to beat down with melee attacks. But you have to watch out for Lit 2, which can kind of hurt your squishies. but I like to fight water nagas, honestly. A lot of enemies in the Sea Shrine are actually worth fighting. As you see, a lot of them here in the A tier. Like, a lot of them are worth fighting. I'm going to put her down in B just because of the Lit 2. But she can come paired with a Water Elemental, and if you use like a Fire 2, Lit 2, and like 2 melee attacks, you can take them out relatively quickly for good XP. And that's, oh, and Mr. Kraken. I'm going to put him in C tier. You know, he gets to go into D tier. I changed my mind. He's probably killing your squishies. You can raise your evasion and try to survive, but he's probably killing your squishies. Kraken is mean. Not as mean as Kraken 2, but he's going to beat you up. And he's not worth the trouble to kill him. You only have to do it because of story progression. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to fight him. So next will be Mirage Tower. I'm going to try to separate Mirage Tower and Sky Castle, but they're going to kind of blend together. So when in the bottom section of Mirage Tower, you can fight Medusas, which come in groups with saber-toothed tigers, which I didn't grab. But I would put them both... Oh, saber-toothed tiger's already on there. Okay, never mind. They're both in the C tier. They can come in a large group together, which you can AoE down, and that's okay XP. Vampires, I'm going to put into S, because they're really easy to farm. They hit kind of hard, but you can get amazing, amazing gold from fighting vampires. So the first 3 encounters after Power On, you can fight vampires. And it's great. Like, if you walk between the first and second floor, you can fight vampire. Like on the first floor, vampire. Second floor, vampire. Third, or the first floor again, vampire. After Power On, and you can just fight vampires. And it's pretty awesome. Like, the amount of XP you get in a very short period of time is just amazing. They can die to Fire 2s, Harm 2s, of course Fire 3, Harm 3s. But like it's an enemy group I love to farm when I'm mage heavy. They're 2,000 gold apiece with 1,200 XP. So if you fight groups of 5, that's 10k gold per battle. If you fight 3 groups of 5 in a row, it's 30k. That's a lot. That's almost as much gold as a war mech. So yeah, I like to farm them with a lot of characters. Now, if gold isn't your concern, and if you think vampires hit a little too hard, there's the guards. Guards are worth like 12 more XP than vampires, something like that. Considerably less gold, have more hit points, but they're weak to lightning, so you can use different spells to take them out, and they're far less threatening. They have paralysis stun attacks, just like vampires, but they have multiple swings, so they're more likely to paralyze you. But they're still pretty easy, and they're good XP for mage-heavy teams. And you fight them in the first couple floors a lot. Then we've got Chimeras. I'm also putting up into S. As you see, we're at the end game now, and lots of enemies become really good to kill. Chimeras are weak to ice, and you find them on the early floors with the vampire guards. You've got the 3 different elemental spells for 3 different enemies that are all weak to their own element. Chimera is the tankiest of the 3 and comes in the smaller group. They are worth, out of the 3, Chimeras are worth the most if it's a group of 3, but the least if it's a group of 1, if it's just a solo Chimera. But still, it's neat that you can fight them there. You can also fight Wiz Vamps, not Wiz Vamps, Wiz Mummies, Jerkbirds, Red Jerkbirds. You can fight all of those in the lower tiers as well as the worms and wyverns. but they're still positioned where they are, and I think that's fine. Now, when you get to the higher tiers and you start getting up to Sky Castle, you get to first beat up the Blue D. I'm going to put Blue D in A tier. Blue D is worth great XP, but he's really tanky and hits super hard. You probably don't want to farm a Blue D, but they are worth good XP. Then once you're in Sky Castle, you can be fighting Eyes, which are great. They are pathetically easy to kill at this point in the game, and give the same XP as the Blue Dragon. When you find them, just take them out. They're easy to kill. Gurnagas, also worth good XP, fairly easy to kill. They come with air elementals sometimes, which aren't great. Air elementals have a lot of hit points. They're super evasive. They've got good magic defense. You probably don't really want to fight too many air elementals. But if you just see a Gurnaga, just have your melee characters just punch her down and she'll just die pretty easily. You can see sorcerers, these guys, they stay in the D tier. They're very scary. They can still instantly kill your team, even if you're wearing a ribbon and a pro ring and are level 50. They can still technically kill you with a melee attack. Now, if your lead character is like level 50, they're going to be running away from you almost guaranteed. But you're probably not going to be 50. We've got Mancats. Now that you have resistances on all of your characters, I'll put them in C. They come in giant groups with Medusas, and you probably don't want to fight them, but, I mean, you can at least handle them now. And if you kill a large pack of 9 of them, the XP isn't terrible. Not that you'll ever fight them, because they're super, super rare, but fighters are actually worth really good XP as well. That's just their encounter number 8, the same as T-Rex. And you know what, just because of that, because it's encounter 8, and if you're going to see encounter 8, you'd rather it be T-Rex, I'll move the fighter down a slot. He's good XP, and he's not very threatening, but you would rather fight a T-Rex. Rock golems are also there. They're not too difficult. They're pretty much the same as mud golems, except they don't poison you. They cast slow instead of fast, so your fighter that doesn't have a ribbon could get slowed by them, but they still aren't very threatening. Gas Dragon. They're from Waterfall. Oops, that's who I forgot. I'll put Gas Dragon into A. They're worth a lot, but they're sketchy, just like the Blue Dragon. Their poison hits hard. And they're encounter number 8, so you probably don't want to waste it on the Gas Dragon, but if you fight it, that is a part of the game when you could be seeing Gas Dragons, so I'll put them there. Badmen, I'll put into B tier. They have a lot of hit points. They are kind of difficult to take down melee. They have a lot of magic defense. They take a long time to kill with spells. They're not really worth fighting. Evil Man, I'll put up into A. You do have to watch out if you get ambushed by Evil Man. He can cast X-Fur on you 25% of the time. Then another 25% he could theoretically use Nuke. So it is a little bit of a sketchy encounter if you're ambushed. You should probably run from them. But if you aren't ambushed, you can fight an Evil Man plus the Nightmares. Use Ice 2 with your casters. Melee the Evil Men as your fighter, knights, black belts, and can take him out for decent XP pretty easily. Large groups of Gurmadusas are actually worth a lot of XP, but they can petrify your team and paralyze them. So you do have to watch out if you get ambushed. But if you see it, they come in groups of 1 to 4. in Sky Castle. If you see a group of 4 of them, you can take them out with like 1 fire 2, possibly 2, for really good XP. Whiz Vamps are also worth a lot of XP, but you know what? Medusa, you're going to come down here. Just because you bring a little bit of sketchiness with you. Whiz Vamps are a lot of XP gold. They hit really hard, and they like to waste their time using A Fire, which doesn't work on the NES. So they're not bad to take out, but they do hit really hard. Sentry, I'm going to put in the B, just because Sentry's worth good XP, but he hits incredibly hard, and he also doesn't go down to melee attacks very well. And he only comes with a group of up to 1 guard. So I don't think that the Sentry is quite as good of a fight as the guard fights are. Slimes, if you see a group of slimes, take them out with fire 2, fire 3. Slimes are pretty good XP. Then we've got the boss of the dungeon, Tiamat. I'll throw her in C. If you kill her with Brack, it's not too hard of a fight. You know what? Just because we have Bane Sword and Brack, I'll throw her in the B. She can hit your team kind of hard. Her XP is still okay, but she is kind of difficult to take out, having 1,000 hit points. But she's weak to the poison/stone element. So Bane Sword works on her 1 out of 7. Brack 1 in 3. And at this point, you have access to the defense sword. You can buff up your melee evasion. You've got the white shirt to buff up your whole party's evasion. You can take her out with your skills available now. But also, if you're using all of your skills to kill off all the enemies in the dungeon, you might be low on some of your spells. So she could be not worth it. Then there's Warmech. I'm putting Warmech into S. I mean, you can't... 32,000 XP in gold. If you can kill this guy, it is worth it. With that said, Warmech is going to murder you. Like, if you don't have a really high level black belt or a fighter with an Excalibur, you're not taking out Warmech very easily. Warmech is likely to ambush you, has a 25% chance to cast Nuclear, and hit your characters for about 300 damage apiece. Warmech can be sketchy, very sketchy, even when you're moderately prepared. If you have a level 30 plus black belt, you can probably just wipe the floor with Warmech. Or a fighter who has Excalibur and, you pump up your evasion a little bit, you can take out Warmech. But you generally aren't trying to farm Warmech. It's usually just, hey, I beat him. And lastly, we've got the end game. When you're ready to run through the final dungeon. A lot of times you aren't ready to actually go fight Chaos yet, or you possibly don't want to yet. But in the final dungeon, you can get some really good XP depending on where you go. I am not going to write down enemies from the Temple of Fiends on the top floor, because everybody knows that they are complete garbage at this point. You don't want to see them. But once you actually go past the Black Orb and go downstairs into the real Temple of Fiends, into the past, that's where we get all the fun stuff, and it's definitely worthwhile to go there and get XP. So on the bottom floor, we've got Frost Dragons. Honestly, they're not the best enemies to fight. I'll put them in C. Frost Dragons spam Blizzard on you, but again, they are pretty easy to kill with fire or lightning, or a single melee attack from your melee characters. Worms, I'm going to put into S. They're incredibly easy to kill with your melee characters. They have no absorption. Assuming you have Excalibur, you're going to be taking them out very easily. Or a black belt. Black belt loves purple worms because they have no absorb, so the black belt hits so hard. It's like you're punching an imp, like, and they give great XP. On the very first floor, you can fight them in pairs. You can go 1 or 2. That's it. But much later into the dungeon, you can fight groups of 4 of them. Groups of 4 of them are pretty scary, depending on your team composition. But it's still a lot of XP, so it is worth killing them. Save your spells. They have high magic resist. Just melee them down. There's not a lot of enemies on floor 1. There's chimeras, which are pretty good. They get taken out easily by ice. And is that all the enemies on floor 1? It's all the enemies that you're really going to be seeing. On floor 2, there's frost wolves and frost giants. Honestly, I should, like, don't fight these guys. They're the worst fight. They're on floor 2. They shouldn't go in the D, honestly. They're not D tier. I just hate that they're not worth much XP. You fight them on floor 2, and they're unrunnable. So it's just annoying. Zombie dragons, also on floor 2, and also unrunnable. They come in groups up to 4, and if you fight a 4-pack of them, they're pretty good XP. Like, honestly, you could put it even into A. I will put it into A, because they are worth good XP. Floor 2, you can also fight chimeras. Chimeras are amazing. The chimera battle is on floor 2, and you can fight 1 to 2 chimeras, 1 to 2 chimera. If you fight a fight of 2 chimera, 2 chimera, that fight is very lucrative. Like, use your ice 3s, ice 2s, take it out, and enjoy the XP. Like, it's very worthwhile. Let's see, some other enemies that are on floor 2. Is that all of them? Go to some floor 3 enemies. Gas Dragon. If you're just trying to earn XP, Gas Dragons are great. Also weak to ice, worth more XP than Chimeras, but ooh boy, you're going to be hurting. If you're just trying to gain XP, it can be worthwhile to fight the Gas Dragons. If you're trying to make your dive down the chaos, you want to avoid them, but they're unrunnable, so you have to fight them. Fighters and mages come grouped together. They're not the greatest. Fighters, pretty good. Mages aren't worthwhile. But you do have to be worried when you get ambushed by them, because if the mages don't cast Rub, and the fighter uses his second spell, Exfer, he can remove the effect of your ribbon, and the mages can hit you through your ribbon with Rub. So you do have to watch out for that. I don't like to really farm them for XP for that reason. There's other fights that are better to take, especially since they share an encounter group with the Chimeras. You should fight the Chimeras instead. But, I mean, if you fight them, that's what you get to deal with. Badmen, they aren't the worst. I'm going to put them in C, but you really don't want to fight them. They come in groups of up to 9. If you kill a 9-pack, yeah, the XP's not bad, but it's going to take so long. You're going to take so much damage that it's really not worth it. You don't want to fight them. Then we've got Phantom. This guy is worth so much XP and gold. Don't farm Phantom. 1 XP, 1 gold. Like, I don't know what kind of sick joke they were doing for the difficulty of Phantom and how he's worth 1. You can farm him if you really wanted to. Have some kind of meme challenge where you gain an entire level when you're 30 plus, fighting 3,200 phantoms to gain a level. Sure. But just don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Oh, Wizvamp. Wizvamp is technically on this floor as well. If you fight the Wizvamp and Zombie Dragon battles, I believe it's encounter number 8 on this floor, so it's kind of a waste of encounter 8, but I mean, the XP is not bad. It is good XP. Alright, that's all the enemies that are on these floors. Then after you beat Phantom, you get to go backwards. You go back to floor 2, then back to floor 1. Then you go to the Earth Elemental, or the Earth Cave floor, where you get to fight Lich 2. The first enemy on there is the Earth Elementals. I would say don't fight these guys, but don't fight these guys on purpose. They aren't worth it at this point in the game. Oh, I forgot to grab the Sarias. You know what? I can grab it right now. That's fine. I can grab Saria. Where are you, Saria? Saria. Join the fray. If you find a pack of 4 Sarias, they're actually worth pretty good XP. But Earth Elementals, you don't want to fight them. They're not worth much. They're difficult to kill. They're unrunnable. You don't want to fight Earth Elementals. They're like one of the worst fights in the whole dungeon, sadly. They're just not worth the value. Then we've got the golems. At this point, you can fight rock and mud golems. You generally don't want to fight them. They're not super difficult to kill. If you have a melee heavy party, you can take them out, but I don't feel like they're really worth it at this point. You can fight large groups of Gurmedusas here, which are actually worth really good XP, but if you get ambushed, they can kill you. They can paralyze you, even through your ribbon, because they have so many swings that it doesn't care that you have a ribbon on. If you get hit by one attack, every attack after that has a chance to hit you with a status effect through your ribbon. So, your ribbon's not going to care about their 10 swings, and you're just going to get paralyzed. So they can be sketchy, but their XP is good and they're easy to kill. So, there is that. And that's everything on that floor except for Lich. Don't farm Lich. Lich is a trap tile. He opens with Nuke. It's 500 XP to each of your party members, so a whole, 2,000 total. Or, sorry, 3,000 total. Yeah, it's 3,000 total. Right? Yeah. Something like that. No, is that, it was 2,000, right? Yeah, it's 2,000 for all the refights and 1 gold. Yeah. I was right the first time. I don't know what I'm thinking. But yeah, the refights, you can refight them as many times as you want, but it's not worth it. They hit hard, they're worth nothing. It's a trap tile. Fight it once and move on. Then we've got the fire floor. You've got the fire elementals, which are unrunnable. They are easier than the earth elementals and worth more. So if you fight them, it's fine. The best enemies you want to fight, or you want to see, are the worms. They are not super threatening at all. You probably actually don't want to be killing them. Like, you probably don't want to kill them. But they're the least threatening enemy to see on the floor. If you really want to gain some XP here, the Agamas and Red Giants are probably the way to go. I mean, the Red Giant is worth less. Agama's actually not terrible. If you fight Red Ds, they're actually pretty good XP. They can hurt you, though. Then, of course, Carry is joining Lich at the bottom. You don't want to farm any of the refights ever. They're not worth it. Then we've got the water enemies. You can fight large packs of Gersharks with the big eyes. Sorry, deep eyes. No, big eyes. Yeah, that's right. Deep eye is what they're called in later versions. Those aren't bad. The Wizzahags, they're okay. Scorpions and sea snakes, Again, about as they were before. Large packs of 9 can be worth great XP, but compared to the other fights you have around here, it's probably not worth it. Like, there's so many other fights that are worth so much better XP, and you're not being attacked by 9 enemies. Speaking of enemies that can be really annoying and unrunnable, water elementals. They are actually worth good XP. They are. There is a water elemental water naga fight, which is encounter number 8. It's worth a ton of XP. It is unrunnable if the water elementals are with the nagas. But if you're fighting a pack of 7 water elementals without the naga, they are unrunnable, and oh boy, they're going to do a lot of damage to you. If you can take it out though, it's good XP, but it's rough. It's going to hurt. Kraken? Yeah, you don't want to fight Kraken again. This dude can one-shot like anything. If you're a fully decked out knight and he decides to crit you twice and you're only like level 25-ish, he can one-shot you. This dude is not kind and worth just 2000 XP like the rest. Not a fun time. And then we've got the Sky Floor. Of course, sorcerers, stay down in D. Don't fight those guys, they're not worth it. Nightmares are there, also not worth much. But, I mean, you can fight them if you really want to, but it's not really worth it. Air elementals, also not really worth it. Iron Golem, not bad. Iron Golem isn't bad, but it's encounter number 8. So, you know what? I'm going to move Iron Golem up to S. Like, they are the 3rd most XP out of any enemy in the game. Right behind Warmech and T-Rex, so I'll put them into S. They can be annoying to kill, they have high absorption, and they resist most elements except for lightning. So use your lightning on them. Zeus Gauntlet, Thor Hammer, spare lit 3s if you want to, but they're super rare. And if for some reason you don't have instant death protection, they can kill some of your characters, but it's unlikely because their skill usage is like 12.5%, so it's probably not going to happen. Then you've got Tiamat 2, with all the other Fiend refights going into D tier. And Chaos, of course, is worth no XP as the final boss. But if you want to kill him and reset the game and go kill him again, by all means. But yeah, that's going to be my tier list for what I personally feel like is worth and not worth fighting throughout the course of the game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I didn't go quite in depth as much as I wanted to. I spent a few weeks actually going over every single encounter group in the entire game. And after working on it for weeks and tiering every individual group based on how many enemies it had and whatnot, and how many turns it would take to finish based on party comps, I was like, this video would take me like over a year to make. So I decided that I was just going to make a shorter version. So hopefully this is good enough. And I'm not quite sure of what the next tier list video might be. You guys will just have to tune in and find out when it's made.